All right, boys and girls, welcome to Don't Be Ridiculous, episode 16?
So 16 or 17, I can't remember.
God, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. What's wrong with us?
Yeah, no, we got to be sorry. We've been paying attention to the end of the Bills Bucks game. We're recording this at 7:41 on Sunday night, so 7:41 Eastern time. So anyway, all right. So I guess we were going to start off with NFL.
Interesting day in the NFL so far.
A lot of the games were kind of lackluster, to say the least.
Right, and then they all of a sudden got good at the very end. It was especially the 1 o'clock window. It was almost all blowouts. And then the 4 o'clock window started to be blowouts, and now we're getting some exciting finishes. We got Cincinnati in overtime with San Francisco, and Tampa Bay and Buffalo going into overtime also. So, yes, this is episode 17. So we did 16 last week. Last week. So, all right, did you want to do your stuff first, or did you want to?
Oh, okay. So let's see. We were gonna. I had a bunch of stuff about the Dolphins.
By the way, the Dolphins did not lose this week.
They didn't play this week
because they had a bye week.
Saying that they didn't win this week because they couldn't play because they've won 5 in a row. So they'll have to try to win next week.
That's right.
No, but I had sort of an extremely cynical plan for how they can be not really a Super Bowl contender, but a good team for several years that should be contending to get into the playoffs every year. And if things break right one year, maybe they could win a playoff game or two and, make it to the AFC Championship. If you catch lightning in a bottle one year, just things go your way, kind of like the Titans did, a couple years ago when they got all the way to the AFC Championship game. So let's see. So if you actually look at it, people have been, obviously critical of Tua, the quarterback for the Dolphins.
Especially us. Especially us.
Especially us, yeah.
We count.
Saying that he's not an elite quarterback and, a lot of different things. We still don't think he's an elite quarterback, but we think based on last year and then especially this year, you can win games with him. There's kind of a certain formula for it. And people are like, yeah, but if you can't win the Super Bowl with him, what's the point? Well, most teams are in that scenario. Most teams do not have elite quarterbacks. Again, elite is an exclusionary word. There's only a few, It's like in the NFL. There's a few really good teams, a few really bad teams, and everyone else is sort of,
right. And just to interrupt you there, it's not that obviously he's not an elite quarterback. Our question is he ever going to be?
Oh well, yeah. I would probably say no. But if you wanted to say the jury is still out, I would say okay, that's fair. Because he's only played 17 games.
Right. And by that rationale, I mean, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow aren't elite quarterbacks either. We just think they probably will be.
We think that they have the potential to be. Yeah, that's more the point. You're right. I don't necessarily think that Tua has the potential to do that. But Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, it looks like they do. So let's see here. So I guess the whole point is that most teams are kind of in that situation, like the Titans with Ryan Tannehill, the Vikings with Kirk Cousins,
49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo.
The Browns with Baker Mayfield, because it's kind of who else did you mention?
I said 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo.
49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo. There's probably a bunch of other teams where it's like, yeah, I mean, like you look at the Broncos, they're a quarterback away, really. They're 7-6. They just won today. They beat Detroit. So, you can, without having a really, really elite quarterback or a Super Bowl winning quarterback or a quarterback who you think has the potential to win the Super Bowl, you can win a lot of games. You can make the playoffs. Kirk Cousins has won a playoff game. Ryan Tannehill has won 2. And he was leading the Chiefs at the halftime of the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago. So, So I guess the point is with the Dolphins, it's like, look, your defense seems to be pretty good. You probably need a couple more playmakers. But if you get your defense a little bit better, you fix the offensive line so it's not atrocious, so you can run the ball a little bit. And then Tua just continues to develop, and you also look at, well, how do you get into the playoffs? How many games do you have to win? Well, I mean, a lot of times if you win 10 games, I know we have one extra game now, but excuse me. If you win 10 games, you probably got a good shot at making the playoffs, right? So then you look at it and you go, well, if your quarterback's not elite, how do you beat really good teams? Well, you usually don't, okay? But if you beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, or most of the teams you're supposed to beat, and then if the rest of your team is pretty good and you can kind of get into some close games, things can happen one way or another. There's a turnover, you get a sack, you get a fumble recovery, you throw a long pass down the field, some guy makes a great catch, something like that happens, you end up winning a couple games. And then you're almost at 10 wins or you're at 10 wins, or you just catch lightning in a bottle one year and you're just really insanely good for some reason. You're just getting turnovers like crazy, or you're running the ball like with the Titans, they had Derrick Henry and they just rode him for 2 years and he took him to the playoffs 2 years in a row. So, things like that can happen. So, that was kind of my sort of extremely cynical take where it's like, I don't think they'll ever be a Super Bowl contender, but hey, if they could be a good team for several years and make a few playoff appearances, maybe win a playoff game or maybe two, if things go your way, I'd be okay with that. Am I upset that they didn't draft Justin Herbert? Yes, they should have, and they blew it. But, this is the situation we're in. So, you can get upset about the world the way you wish things were, or you can deal with the way things are. So, you can drink the water. So I don't know. What did you? I know we had talked about this earlier in the week, but did you have anything to add to that?
I think, I think you're on the right track. It's great. It's kind of like the Dolphins season has been completely up and down. They started out pretty poorly, even though they were in a bunch of these games that they could have won, and they've managed to get a bunch of wins against some bad teams. So,
and the other thing is that I think it's one of those things where, and I'm hesitating to say this because we've been Dolphins fans for a while, and it's been like we had Chad Henne, and it's like, okay, is he going to get? Do we have to wait a little longer? We had Ryan Tannehill for several years, and it's like we're waiting. It's not really happening. So I get kind of annoyed with that, but at the same time with Tua, I just think it's going to take him longer to develop. And I think they messed up his development in the first year because they designed an offense around Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then for whatever reason they were 4-4. Fitzpatrick was playing well, and they put Tua in there, and it's like this offense isn't designed around him. What the hell are you doing? At least this year they started off with the offense designed around him. They draft Jalen Waddle specifically because he played with him in Alabama, and then also he'll fit in with all the RPO stuff that they're doing. So. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I feel like he needs another year, or maybe another 2 years before you can kind of say, this is it. This is what he is, for certain. So
and just for
updates.
Yeah, the 49ers beat the Bengals in overtime. They scored a touchdown.
I was rooting for the Bengals in that one.
And they're reviewing whether Leonard Fournette got a first down for Tampa. I think I think it's great the Dolphins have turned it around. They need, but they still have the same issues that they had. The offensive line is still not good, and they have, they have some things to fix. They have made it work with what they've got, but so I think they deserve credit for that. But we're going in. Next season will be the 4th year with this coach and GM.
Right.
So,
and that's a good lead into, I had like a sort of I don't know if I actually have 12 steps for the Dolphins, but I have several steps. We'll see if I get to 12 of just sort of, this is what you need to do going forward for the next year or two. So I think how did I start this off? I had basically, trying to remember the very first point I was going to make.
Yeah, you wanted to do an intervention on the Dolphins, even though it's a little late.
An intervention. That's the word I was looking for. An intervention with the Dolphins. You might say, well, they've won 5 in a row. Why are you doing an intervention now? Shouldn't you have done it at rock bottom when they lost to the Jaguars? And it's like, I guess you could do that, but at the same time, they've sort of turned things around. So maybe it's a good point to kind of go, hey, stop right here for a second. Let's make sure that we're on the right track and we don't fall back into, losing to the Jaguars again, because they're playing the Jets next week. So you don't want to lose to the Jets. The Jets are 3-10. They're terrible. Okay. So I think the first thing was, what was the first thing? Okay. Deshaun Watson. I understand why you want to trade for Deshaun Watson. And to be honest, I get it. It's fine. But I would just say this: if you're going to trade for Deshaun Watson, okay, don't do it in the middle of next season. Okay, if you're going to do it in the off season. If he's able to resolve his legal issues and you still want to trade for him, go ahead and do it, and then trade Tua, and then design everything around Deshaun Watson so you can start off the year like, boom, this is our guy. This is who we're moving forward with. We've got things set up around him, so now we can try to go win. Don't do this like this year. I think it was ridiculous that they're trying to trade for Deshaun Watson in the middle of the year, and it's like Tua's like, well, am I the quarterback or not? And you got all this stuff swirling around. I don't think that's necessarily good for things. So if you're going to trade for Deshaun Watson, get it done in the offseason. Otherwise, move on, okay? And if you don't trade for Deshaun Watson, like I said, don't do it in the middle of the year. Tua is your quarterback for next year, period, okay? And you might be like, yeah, but I don't know if he's good enough. Well, let me tell you something. You drafted him, okay? You could have drafted Justin Herbert, but you didn't. So just stick with Tua. Stick with Tua for next year if you're not going to get Deshaun Watson in the offseason. Let's see. What was the other part? Oh, the other part. Chris Grier. Okay. I understand you made some mistakes in the draft, okay? You drafted some offensive linemen, and they didn't work out, okay? Just put that aside. Just accept that you made some mistakes, and then let's try to move forward and do a good job. Okay. I'm trying to remember who were draft picks. Was Jalen Phillips a draft pick?
Yeah.
By Chris Grier? Okay. He's playing well. Okay. You drafted Jalen Waddle. He's probably going to be touchdown Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Well, sucks for Buffalo. You had your shot. You should have scored a touchdown there. Okay, so like I was saying, Chris Grier, you made some mistakes. It's okay, it happens. But you have done some things. You have done some things well. So just forget about the mistakes. Let's move forward. Let's have another good draft. Try to address a good draft, and also you've got a bunch of cap space. Fix the offensive line. Okay, you can't win football games if you got a crap offensive line, which you guys have. Okay. What were some of the other? I don't know if you wanted to jump in on anything, go ahead. But I'm trying to remember all the points that I had on this.
Yeah, listen, the Dolphins have been powerless to change the franchise, and their situation is clearly unmanageable. As it is for us as the fans. Yeah. We've tried to turn our will and our lives over to Chris Grier, but he's basically had a couple of really good draft picks in 6 years or whatever. So, yeah. He did a great job drafting Xavier Howard, but we don't have a whole lot of impact players on the team, especially on defense.
Xavier Howard's really good. They need more. I mean, especially like if you could get a really great running back or, just stuff like that. I mean, like because Jalen Waddle's good, but and granted, maybe that's a function of the offensive line why you haven't seen him going down the field a lot. But excuse me. But
anyway. I think it's one of those things. It's frustrating because they should be better than they are, but it's right. also we have to be realistic. Like, this is what the team is. And so So we'll see. We're going to go into. I think the coach has basically saved his job with the way that they've played recently.
If they kept losing like that, he was going to get fired. So yeah, basically next year is that. That's why we're doing an intervention. Next year is the make or break year. I mean, if they don't make the playoffs next year, either Brian Flores and Chris Grier, or at least Brian Flores is probably gone. The GM might be gone as well. We'll see. Yeah. So let's see, what did it say? Fix the offensive line. I don't know obviously we don't know exactly what's going on in the Dolphins locker room, but we've heard reports that Brian Flores kind of acts like Bill Belichick. And the last time I checked, Brian Flores, is your name Bill Belichick? No, your name is Brian Flores. Okay. You haven't been to the playoffs, much less won a playoff game. Okay. So, just kind of back off with being arrogant and whatever else. Just, I've heard people say you're even keel. That's good. Okay, fine. Just stick with that. And again, if you don't trade for Deshaun Watson in the offseason, don't do it during the middle of the season, because you're not going to have these weird press conferences. You're not going to have to answer questions. You can just go into the season with either Tua as the quarterback or Deshaun Watson's the quarterback. Done. And you might be saying, well, are you really going to, pin your hopes on Tua as your future? It's like, I mean, is there a better option out there? Who are you going to get?
Yeah, that's something we've been talking about the whole season. Is people think, oh, well, they're just going to move on from him. Well, it's not that easy.
Yeah,
it's not as simple as you can't just find quarterbacks growing on trees. There's not going to be somebody available that's significantly better than him. And maybe Deshaun Watson's legal stuff will get resolved, but it's not likely. So anyway, yeah, I think we'll see how the.
I just remember the other thing I wanted to add about Brian Flores. Okay, when I was talking about going into the season with this guy's your quarterback, there needs to be a lot of clarity. Okay, so don't be firing offensive line coaches a week before the season starts. Okay, and can we continuity is good, but continuity for continuity's sake, may not be the best thing, but just have everything in place so you can just move forward, and there's just continuity, and there's no questions about this other stuff like, well, who's the offensive coordinator? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? Just, keep some the offensive coordinator's actually been doing a pretty good job the last several weeks. So just, hang on to him and get better players on the offensive line. Just figure that out. I think the other point I was going to make was, I'm not saying you got to be Super Bowl contenders, but just don't lose to the Jets this year or next year. Just don't lose to them. We've got to be better than the Jets. Okay. I'm not saying you got to, hell, you don't even have to beat the Bills next year. Okay. If you get the Patriots in September, you might be able to beat them. Okay. But just don't lose to the Jets, and don't lose to the Jaguars again. Okay. Please. And also go to Stephen Ross and say, can you tell the NFL to stop sending us to London in the middle of the season to play a football game, an American football game, not soccer? Like, come on, guys. Trying to remember if there was anything else. I think that was basically the sort of intervention of, keeping you guys on the straight and narrow for, this season leading into next year.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I had a couple things from last. We did our last podcast on Sunday, so we didn't get to talk about the Monday night game between the Patriots and the Bills.
The Patriots and the Bills. Yeah.
So yeah, the game was played in I guess you call it a nor'easter. I don't know what the hell that was. The wind was blowing so hard that you could basically,
a time capsule.
Right. You could basically only throw the ball going one way and only to one side of the field because there was a crosswind also.
Except for Josh.
Yeah, he threw the ball. Yeah, he threw the ball well, but it was always to one side of the field. So, so I think, basically the narrative about that game was, oh, this is Belichick. He's got it all over us, and it's a gigantic win, and he's.
Well, we were saying it's kind of like the thing we were joking about where Belichick is like, for my next trick, I'm gonna try to have score points on offense with tiny white guys. So we're like, oh, for my next trick, I'm just going to have Mac Jones throw 3 passes and just run. We're just going to run the ball every single play, even on 3rd and long. It's not going to matter.
Right. Yeah, we're just going to run the ball 50 times, and we'll see how it goes. And yes, listen, it's a nice win, but I think people are overreacting to the what happened in that game. Number one, the Patriots won. You really couldn't throw the ball anyway. They only threw it 3 times. Well, yeah, that's because that was good coaching. It wasn't a very smart move to try to throw the ball in that kind of weather situation. So we're acting like, oh, the Patriots are now going to go to the Super Bowl and they've got, they're the best team in the league. And, I think the media got ahead of themselves. The second thing was the narrative was, for especially the Patriot haters, and especially in Boston, well, he doesn't trust Mac Jones. Like he doesn't trust Mac Jones, and we got to, worry about this, blah, blah, blah. And to me, like that is completely irrelevant. Okay. Mac Jones is a rookie quarterback. Like they shouldn't trust Mac Jones. Okay. The offense should not be put on him to try to win the game. He's a rookie. Yeah. Like, what are you expecting? Like, why are we worried about this? It just, to me, it's totally inconsequential, guys. You have a rookie quarterback. You got to do the right things for your rookie quarterback. Don't worry about whether they trust him, whether they don't. If he plays well enough, it won't matter anyway. So I thought that was a bit ridiculous, and I thought that it's a nice win, but this doesn't mean, oh, well, Buffalo clearly doesn't have it this year, and the Patriots are definitely the best team, and all of this stuff. We're making way too much out of a win in ridiculous weather with 20 to 40 degree winds. Yes, if they play all the rest of the games in a driving snowstorm, I like the Patriots to win the Super Bowl. But that game did not change. Even Buffalo losing today, I'm not selling my Buffalo Bills stock. I'm not saying, oh, well, the Bills are done, and the Patriots are clearly going to be the best team. So I think the AFC is still, there's a handful of teams that still have a shot. I just thought we went. I
agree with you. I mean, Buffalo could have won the game. I mean, they were right down there. They nearly did. So it's not like, I don't think the gap between Buffalo and the Patriots is, that significant, although the Patriots only have 4 losses and now the Bills have 7. So technically the Bills, if the playoffs started today, the Bills wouldn't even be in the playoffs. So,
right.
No, the Bills don't have 7. They have 6 losses. I'm sorry. But still, that's a really big deal. Because now your margin for error, I mean, you get to 8 losses, you might be out. So, I mean, I know there's 7 teams in the playoffs, so, there's an extra game, but.
Yeah, so I just thought, everybody loves it, everybody loves what the Patriots did, and everyone got up in arms about it. But in the grand scheme, it doesn't really mean very much.
I mean, it's just it's one of those things where I think everyone wants to, because we're in a hot take culture with sports, everyone wants to be able to go, well, this is clearly the best team. They're hot. They want the narrative to work itself out during the course of the season. And it's like, that's not really going to happen. Like you've been saying, someone's just going to get on the right track for the next, month and a half, and they'll probably win the Super Bowl. So, and then you never know, some crazy stuff could happen. I mean, the Saints got screwed got screwed by the officials like twice in the last few years. So like, and the Bucs just, they played good defense. They almost lost, basically all 3 of their playoff games before getting to the Super Bowl. So, people, I know people want to do that, but there's only a few teams where I'm just like, I don't see them winning the Super Bowl. Like the Ravens, they got too many injuries. The Bengals, I would say no, just because Joe Burrow's never been to the playoffs before, and the Bengals still have some deficiencies. The Chargers, their offensive line isn't that good, So, I mean, everyone wants to try to go, oh, well, see, I caught it first. I was on them first, and it's just like that's not how this is really going to work,
Yeah, yeah. So then, kind of leading into that, there was an article in Sports Illustrated by Albert Breer that I thought was really interesting about
Yeah.
that the running game is making a comeback. Teams
Yeah,
running the football is making a
talking
comeback.
about it. Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, my basic take is I've been talking about this with
First, I wanted to point out one of the things that I thought were interesting was Albert Breer was pointing out that the teams had been drafting like smaller linebackers, right? Because people are, everybody's going to throw the ball. So then it's like, oh, well, they got smaller linebackers. Let's just line up and run the ball right at them because they're not as big, so they can't stop us. So, it's kind of funny. It's one of those things where like the analytics pushes you one way, and then you go really all into that, and then people go, well, wait a minute, if they're doing that, we could do this. Which I think is kind of interesting. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of a Moneyball thing where it's kind of flipped. I think it changed when everybody was doing spread offenses. Like if you remember about 10 years ago when Jim Harbaugh started using Colin Kaepernick and teams started doing RPO stuff and spread option stuff, and that kind of changed. It took defenses a while to kind of catch up to that. And in response to that, a lot of teams are playing nickel defense. Like there was an example in the Monday night game. The Buffalo played, which likes to play nickel, so they play the extra defensive back, but they had to play a linebacker in place of that defensive back more often than they normally do. So, yeah, it's kind of taken over. And listen, this is my theory on this has been basically like I've been one of those people who says, I wouldn't pay a lot of money for a running back and I wouldn't draft one really high just because I think, their value is kind of stagnant. I think you can find running backs all over the place and not pay them a lot of money. I was never of the opinion that you don't have to be able to run the ball. Yes, you do have to be able to do it. I don't think you can win the Super Bowl where you're completely depending on your running game to carry you. But we're not talking about winning Super Bowls here. We're just talking about winning games, getting into the playoffs. And you're seeing all of these teams start to dominate playing that way, like New England, like San Francisco. The Rams are having a hard time because they can't run the ball. Tampa's running the ball more.
Tampa can run or Green Bay can run the ball pretty well.
Green Bay can run the ball. Indianapolis. You're seeing these teams
make the playoffs, but they've been able to run the ball the last few years.
Right.
So
yeah. The Browns have struggled because they've had injuries. But
the Colts already.
I said the Colts.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So the other thing is that when teams practice, right? So these a lot of these offenses that throw the ball all the time, like especially in the off season, the defenses don't get to practice against teams that just line up and pound the ball at you.
True.
So now you're getting these defenses that they don't know, they're not prepared to deal with that when it happens. As we saw, although, I mean, we're making a big deal about how the Patriots ran the ball. They ran the ball for 3.5 yards a carry. Like it's not like they were great. They cracked one big run. Yeah. So yeah. Again, I don't think we can make too much out of the game. Buffalo had the ball with 3 minutes to go down near the goal line. Most of the time, they win. So,
but I do think that kind of we talked about how Belichick kind of has a coaching advantage over basically every other coach in the league because he's coached for so long.
Yeah.
So him being able to run the ball like this, I think is kind of a problem for people. I mean, granted, they still need to be able to throw the ball. They're not going to win a playoff game throwing the ball 3 times. I mean, I don't think. But they being able to run the ball like this is good. Especially for them if they get home, because they could get the number 1 seed. They play the Titans next week, so they could get the number 1 seed by beating them, and then it's like you're going to have to play in New England in January when it's could be snowing or windy or whatever else.
The Patriots are playing the Colts next week.
Oh, they're playing the Colts? Oh.
Yeah.
The Titans after that?
They already beat them. The Dolphins the Dolphins are playing the Titans. The Patriots already beat the Titans a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought it was an interesting article. How things have kind of things are starting to change a little bit. But look, I mean, the same things hold true. Like when you get to the playoffs, you got to have the quarterback who can make stuff happen. When on 3rd and 7, when you have to throw the ball, you got to have the quarterback that can make it happen, and that's how you win the Super Bowl. You can win games like this, and that's
but
my.
I think the main point is you need kind of a dynamic offense,
Right,
where you can throw the ball on multiple levels and you can run the ball. Some teams may be able to run the ball better than others, but if you can't really run the ball at all, I think you're gonna have a problem because defenses can just key in on that, and then you may struggle to score enough points.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting. I still think the AFC is pretty open. I still think somebody could get hot and take control of it. I think
the Chiefs could win. You can make an argument for the Patriots. You could maybe make an. I don't know. You could maybe make an argument. You could make an argument for the Bills. You could maybe make one for the Chargers or the Bengals. There's several teams that you can kind of see maybe they could get hot at the right time and move through. I mean, same thing in the NFC. Really, I mean, I think that we think the Packers and the Cardinals are the two best teams, but I mean, the Bucks could make another run. I mean, they're right there. I mean, maybe the Rams can kind of play better than they have been. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought it was a pretty interesting thing. I got a couple of things that I wanted to mention. There was an article on NFL.com about Urban Meyer that he's having all kinds of issues with players and other coaches.
With other coaches, yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, so he had a player who tried to leave the facility during practice, didn't want to come back. They had to talk him into coming back in, apparently, and he's doing a lot of things where in press conferences he blames players for instead of taking it on himself and blames other coaches and basically says kind of uses this Gestapo kind of authoritarian type deal, which
you can't do that in the NFL.
Right. It works really well in college because you own everything and you can tell the players what to do. But from what the article I read, you can't treat professional athletes like this. So he benched their best running back, and Trevor Lawrence complained that this guy needed to be playing, because he was the best player they have at that position. And he's had 2 or 3 coaches leave. A couple of them for other jobs, and so I think just full disclosure, I've been skeptical of the Urban Meyer thing from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't believe it would work. Number one, because he couldn't make it through an entire college football season health wise,
right?
And so I didn't.
The thing is, you said that, and then stuff started to happen where it's like, yeah, see, I told you. I mean, the thing with Tebow at the beginning of the year or in the preseason was ridiculous. Okay, the thing with some of the draft picks almost didn't make any sense. Look, they already had running backs. What the hell are you doing?
Oh yeah, that the strength and conditioning coach, he hired him, right, and then he had to fire him the next day.
Right.
And then he obviously had the incident with the girl in the bar and
right.
A few months ago.
See, so many things have happened that I'm forgetting all the stuff that's happened.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, basically the article said, he doesn't feel like the owner is going to move on from him, but it's one of those things where you've had more than one person. I mean, Mike Lombardi came out and said he thinks he's going to be done after this year. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes, but it was just kind of like it kind of I figured I would mention it just because it jumped out to me that
I mean, if he loses the locker room, and the other thing is, I think you and I both listened to the Ryan Russillo podcast with Kevin Clark, and I mean, Trevor Lawrence has been bad, and you start to go, well, is he just that bad, or does Urban Meyer not know what the hell he's doing?
Yeah, I think I think that Trevor Lawrence stuff. I don't think it's that big a deal. He's a rookie, and they have no talent.
Right. I get that.
They have no talent on that team, so I don't really worry about that. But it would suck for Trevor Lawrence if this is just a team that changes coaches every year. And
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like whatever Urban Meyer's doing is working. I mean, they didn't score any points today
Right.
against Tennessee, so it's not looking good. It just jumped out to me. I figured I would mention it.
I agree with you.
So I had some notes on the games today. Cowboys defense, I mean, did not see that coming. They are ferocious.
Yeah. Their defense is definitely good. I just, today kind of confirmed for me, I just don't see that. You can make an argument for the Cowboys making it to the Super Bowl or making it to the NFC Championship game, but I just don't see it. I mean, they should have blown Washington out. It was 27-20 and Washington had the ball. And, that should not have been the case. They should have blown them out. Dak Prescott threw a pick six that was terrible. Okay. I don't know what the hell you're doing, and also I know you're paying Ezekiel Elliott a lot of money, but Pollard's the better running back,
right.
I just, and the thing is, we were, some people were holding back with Dak Prescott. So they're like, oh, well, he doesn't have all his guys. He doesn't have Amari Cooper and there's some injuries on the offensive line or whatever. And it's like, okay, fine. He had all his guys today and they started off the first half fine. And then the second half, they hardly did anything. So, again, this is my thing with the Cowboys. I think they're good. They're a playoff team. They're going to win their division now. I mean, they've just about got that locked up. But as far as me thinking they can go deep into the playoffs and win multiple playoff games, I don't see it, And people can say, oh, well, you're just being, well, why should I give them the benefit of the doubt? I mean, like with Kansas City, for example, I've got plenty of criticisms of them and I've got some concerns, but I mean, if you were to tell me, like, if you were to travel into the future and say the Chiefs made it to the AFC Championship game, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense, because they've done it before. They've done it twice before. So, the Cowboys haven't really shown me anything. So that was just kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I think they're completely different than I would have expected. Their defense is actually playing pretty well.
Yeah.
Their offense is having a hard time. So I'm not sure what, they didn't play well against the Chiefs. They didn't play well today. So yeah, they definitely have some issues. They managed to get the win today. I think you mentioned the Chiefs. I see the Chiefs as they're getting better every week. It's not.
I think that's probably a fair take. I think that's probably what's going on.
Right. It's not leaps and bounds. They're not lighting everybody up like they were, but they're
48 points today. Now, granted, it's against the Raiders, and they seem to score much points against the Raiders every year. But
yeah, the defense had a touchdown in there. The defense contributed a lot to it. I think, they're getting good play on defense. They're doing the little things right on offense. They're running the ball a little bit better. So they're one of those teams that 4 weeks from now they could really be rolling. We'll see. I see.
We can talk about style points and everything else. They've managed to keep winning these games. I still have concerns, but they were 3-4 at one point, and they're now they're 9-4. So they're doing something right because they keep winning the games.
Right.
So
yeah. So I thought they played well. I think the Cleveland Browns they are trending in the wrong direction. They managed to win the game today after Lamar Jackson got hurt, but it is a struggle for them just to make it through a game. I mean, thank goodness they have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney on defense, because they would be in serious trouble. Like they're it's one of those things. They're gutting out wins. My San Francisco 49ers, they managed to win today. I'm still kind of trying to figure out where they are.
7-6 now.
7-6. They're playing. Okay. They're playing okay. They're running the ball much better. But I just expected so much more from them.
Well, if the playoffs started today, I think the 49ers would be in.
Yeah, 49ers would be in. Yeah, okay. They're probably going to make the playoffs. Like, as much as I'm complaining, they're probably going to make the playoffs. It's just they just don't. That was a good game against the Bengals today.
Yeah.
The other thing, I said this earlier, I'm not selling out on the Buffalo Bills yet. I still think New England, Buffalo, Kansas City, Tennessee any of those teams, I think, could win the AFC. So, I think Tennessee, obviously, they're going to need Derrick Henry back if they're going to win a bunch of playoff games. But yeah, I don't care that Buffalo lost today. You say whatever you want. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think they still get to play the Patriots again. So we'll see how it goes. This could be very.
Yeah, I mean, you beat the Patriots. They need to win next week because you can't lose 3 in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks they've lost 2 close games. I mean, they probably should have won today. They had the ball down there and they didn't. I mean, we could complain about the refs. I mean, that looked like pass interference on Stephon Diggs in the end zone, but what are you going to do?
But yeah, they put themselves in a hole today, which made
they got down 24-3. I mean, give them all the credit in the world for coming back. Josh Allen was ridiculous. I mean, throwing the ball and running the ball. So yeah, anytime you get a quarterback like that, you got a chance. So we'll see.
So those are all the NFL thoughts that I had. Okay. Unless you got something else you want to. I don't think there's anything else we really need.
I'm hoping. I looked at the Saints beat the Jets 30-9, so the Dolphins play the Jets next week. So just blow the Jets out, please. Just blow them. Like, show me you can blow somebody out. Like, please, that would be nice.
Yeah, I would. I mean, a couple things. I mean, I want the Dolphins to win, and then play. So we can see the Saints and see that Saints game where the Dolphins still have a shot. And I would like that game, the last game against New England, to actually matter. That would make it kind of fun. Yeah. Anyway, all right, but not great games today, but interesting NFL Sunday.
The second half of the Bills Bucks game was pretty cool. So
yeah. All right, so I had some NBA stuff.
What do you think about the? Are we? I mean, I know we're still in December. We're not even at Christmas yet, but it's like any other thoughts about the Lakers? Like they're just they're beating bad. They beat some bad teams, but they also struggle against some bad teams. Like
they're a work in progress, man. They gotta figure out what they're gonna do on defense, and gotta get guys healthy. And so I don't even know how you assess anything with the Lakers because LeBron's played half the games. So I don't even know how Charles Barkley went on Inside the NBA and went off on Anthony Davis, basically said he's out of shape and he needs to be the man and all this stuff. I have no idea what to say about any of that. I will say that I do find this funny though from media sports talking heads assessing the Lakers. When before the Lakers won the title in the bubble, everyone criticized the rest of their roster. Oh, you can't win with these guys. You can't win with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Alex Caruso and all these guys. This isn't going to work, blah, 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 blah. So everyone shit all over their supporting cast. And now everybody's against changing. Like, I can't believe you traded those guys. I can't believe you traded Kuzma and KCP and all of a sudden it's like nobody liked them. And then they win the title, and then everybody likes them. We can't get rid of them. What are you doing? So it's I find that kind of funny that all of a sudden. So let me get this straight: Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, really, he's the MVP. Is that what we're talking about here? So I think that's.
Put it this way: I'm not bailing on the Lakers yet, but I need to see some stuff right before the All-Star break. Like if I don't see something better before then, because like we've talked about, we think this is it for LeBron. It's his last chance. We might be a year too late, and I don't see how the hell this is going to work with Russell Westbrook. So we got another couple months here, and then we'll kind of see where we're at. Because
look, you got to get LeBron and Anthony Davis playing well. I mean, until that happens, all this stuff is irrelevant.
Right. Yeah.
So, so I just don't see how you can make an assessment. So a bunch of stuff came up this week about Damian Lillard getting traded. It doesn't look like because Portland is having major issues. Obviously, they brought in a new coach, Chauncey Billups, this year, and they fired the GM last week.
Okay.
So Olshey, he had a bunch of stuff right after the stuff about Robert Sarver being a bit of a narcissistic pig came out. Neil Olshey had a bunch of stuff about, conduct unbecoming and not treating people in the organization very well, and they fired him. So, and Portland is not playing well. So it's kind of all up in the air. The problem for Portland is they really don't have a lot of stuff to try to make the team better. The only thing they can do is trade Damian Lillard, which it doesn't look like they're ready to just throw the whole thing out yet. Obviously, that link to, the story, the things get put together with Philadelphia and Ben Simmons. Basically, they came out and they're not going to Philadelphia is not going to accept not Philadelphia. Portland is not going to take Ben Simmons back for Damian Lillard. They basically said they're not going to do they're not going to do that deal, and I get it. And Damian Lillard came out and said, "Listen, I'm not asking to be traded. Like I'm trying to work it out." So we'll see how it goes. That's one of those things you keep your eye on because it's only December, but 2 months from now we could see something different. And
Colin Cowherd was saying he thought trading the Celtics trading Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart for Damian Lillard would sounded like a good idea.
Yeah, I wasn't. I heard that, and I'm not real high on it. Damian Lillard and Jason Tatum isn't winning you anything. Plus Boston's trading two of their best defensive players.
That's true.
To get a guy who's not a very good defensive player. Yeah. And Tatum's just going to get double teamed then from now on if they do that. And so I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me if you're the Celtics. You have Jason Tatum. What do you need Damian Lillard for? It just didn't make that didn't make any didn't move my needle at all. The other thing is, the story came out this week. Zion Williamson looks like he's about the size of 2 houses, and he's sounds like he's been eating cheeseburgers and In-N-Out or whatever. Well, actually, New Orleans, whatever good food they have in New Orleans, he's been eating too much, and he's basically they said he's had a setback with his foot injury, and there's no telling when or if he comes back this year. And it's one of those things that's really sad. The Pelicans are terrible. And, basically they've gotten rid of almost every good player that they have. They tried the Drew Holiday and Lonzo Ball trades didn't do them any good. So their team is basically, they might have the number 1 pick this year. We'll see. So it's gone from not good to really bad. With them, it's really sad because Zion is unbelievable, but I don't know that he'll be able to play because the story is that he's 330 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's not like and everyone's, I've heard the comparison, well, Shaq was blah, 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 but Shaq was 7 feet tall. That changes the dynamic a little bit. So that's one of those things that it's just kind of sad. I had a couple responses. So Bill Simmons had a podcast earlier this week where they were talking about NBA stuff, and I had a couple things that I feel like that Bill Simmons was saying, but I think this is kind of there's more than one. There's some more national people that seem to believe this, and I think some of these things are kind of being jumped to conclusions. Number one, that Milwaukee is clearly the favorite, and I have no problem with people saying that they think Milwaukee's the best team. I get it. Totally understand. But acting like Brooklyn is just not going to be there and they're not worth talking about, I think it's premature and ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds of Kyrie Irving getting vaccinated or something? And I don't know. People talk about maybe the vaccine mandate will end. No, I don't think it will. At least during this NBA season, I don't think that's going to happen. I
don't even care about Kyrie coming back.
Yeah,
to me, they're still good enough. We saw it in the playoffs last year. Like, are we going to go with this nonsense regular season stuff, or are we going to go with what we actually saw in the playoffs last year?
That's true.
I agree. Like Bill Simmons making the argument, Giannis is the best player in the NBA. Whether you agree or disagree with that is irrelevant. The point is, yeah, that's fine. Giannis is going to be Giannis, but the Bucks didn't. The only way the Bucks won the championship was because Middleton and Drew Holiday really showed up. They clamped down on defense. All of that other stuff worked. That's why they won the championship, not because Giannis went 33-10 every game.
Won the MVP 2 years in a row in Cleveland the first time he was there. They didn't win the championship. And by the way, I don't think – I'm trying to remember. Neither of the MVP years – he didn't go to the finals in any of the MVP years in Cleveland the first time around. So having the best player in the world, it doesn't matter unless you have other guys around them that can do enough to get you over the hump.
Yeah. So he was like Bill Simmons was feeling sad for Kevin Durant for being on this team. I think that is just complete hogwash. Brooklyn will be fine. Like they'll be there in the playoffs, and we'll see how it goes. How many teams in the East do you think are real contenders?
Do you really like how much do you buy the Bulls and how much? I mean, we've talked about the Miami Heat, like we're Miami Heat fans, but come on, we don't think they're going to get. We don't think they can win the Eastern Conference. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and listen, I like what the Bulls are doing. I think it's fantastic that DeRozan and all those guys are playing well.
They're good.
But again, it's December. I don't think like the Bulls are contenders. Like Bill Simmons was acting like, oh, the Bulls are going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, okay, I think I think we can jump to conclusions on a lot of this stuff. I love how Golden State's playing. I think it's fantastic. But in no way am I going, well, they're the title favorite. I think I'm not making any definitive statements other than the Brooklyn Nets will be just fine. Like we don't need to worry about any of that. Like they will be.
People need to remember this about Milwaukee. Milwaukee didn't blow through the playoffs last year. Okay, they got behind 2-0. They nearly got behind 3-0 to Brooklyn. They got behind 2-0 in two different series, okay, and had to come back. Giannis had to go. I mean, Giannis was insane the last two games in the finals. I mean, and especially the closing game. I mean, so yeah, that's what it took for them to win. So don't act like they're just clearly better than everybody else. No, they're really not. They're good. They play hard. Giannis is what is Giannis, and those other guys seem to show up enough for them to get out of a series. But I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting second half. Especially later on the season trade deadline. It's gonna be real interesting as far as that goes. And honestly, most teams are hovering around 500 right now. So this is kind of like this season is kind of. Most teams are kind of sleepwalking, and I think Golden State and Phoenix have really been taking advantage of that.
Golden State's 21-5. Yeah. So they're they've probably got the inside track to the best record in the league at this point. I mean, them or the Suns. So which and in fairness, I mean, let's just be honest. Home court advantages and everything, but they've got some younger players who haven't really done much in the playoffs on Golden State. So them having home court advantage, I think, is probably a pretty big deal for them. So,
yeah, there's so much up in the air. So I thought
it's still really early. Yeah, we need to kind of slow down.
Yeah, I thought a couple of those things were premature. I think it's great that the Bulls are playing well. I think it's great for the NBA. I think it's great that the Warriors are kind of back. I think the Lakers being a mess is fantastic for everybody. Because we all get to talk and pick them apart.
Well, they got Jimmy Butler's out for a little while, and Bam Adebayo's out for a little while, but they just beat the who did they beat the other day? I can't remember, but Kyle Lowry's playing really well. Duncan Robinson's hitting threes. They got some other newer guys on the team who are playing pretty well. So yeah, there's but it's still too early. It's
Yeah, no, listen, I think it's going to be, NBA is going to be great this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're getting to the home stretch for football here, so we'll definitely be catching. But we're also getting to the dog days of the NBA. We get past Christmas and into January, and it's kind of like,
It's kind of like, all right, who's playing well now? Because this is when it's starting to matter.
Yep.
So.
All right, but that's all I had.
Yeah, I don't think I had anything else. I didn't want to. Bryce Young won the Heisman, which we all kind of thought was going to happen anyway. But it's kind of interesting. It's the first Alabama quarterback to win the Heisman, because typically you think of Alabama as like a running team, and this year, it's more like they're kind of a throwing team.
And I'll get on my soapbox here. It's ridiculous that you have to wait 3 years out of high school to go to the NFL. Bryce Young well, we already know this now. Bryce Young is going to be the number one pick in 2023. So, he would be the number one pick this year if he came out. So,
what is he, a sophomore? What is he?
He's a sophomore.
Okay.
So he's got to play one more year, and then he'll be eligible for the draft. But anyway, all right.
So yeah, I think that's good for episode 17. Oh, next episode, the Festivus episode, the airing of sports grievances.
Next week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right.
Well, next week is like the
week before Christmas. Yeah.
The next week would already be Christmas. So
yeah. Just trying to see if we can get Jerry Stiller on.
So get ready, everybody. Happy Festivus, a Festivus for the rest of us.
We are not going to wrestle, though. We're not going to be doing any physical.
There will be no feats of strength.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll wrestle with one of my little dogs. Maybe we'll do that. No, actually, no. You know what we'll do? We'll get Susie. I'll get my two dogs, Susie and Willie, to because they wrestle all the time. We'll just I'll put the webcam onto them, and you can watch them wrestle.
Yeah, it's for you folks out there. It's kind of like Clark has kids. Every time I call him up, he's like, "Hey, put that down. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop that! No." It's very funny.
Dogs are not like children. I'm not gonna get into that comparison right there. But
oh, it's exactly like children.
Maybe so. Anyway,
it's exactly like children. You don't have kids. You don't know. Anyway,
okay.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in.